On this episode of Engine Masters, a junk small block Chevy, a YN671 Supercharger, and Bubba Boost. Hey, it's Freiberger here on Engine Masters, where guys like Amsoil and Mr. Gasket and Earls pay for me and my buddies to hang around and make horsepower, and I love it. Especially this episode where we're gonna make big power with boost. But first, we have to find out what our victim here is gonna make naturally aspirated. So here's our combination. This is the exact same engine that you saw in the last episode of Engine Masters, although we've changed the whole top end. The bottom end is just a basic rebuilt 350 Chevy, just like you might find in, say, an 89 Chevy pickup. It's cast pistons, regular old cast crankshaft, nothing special. However, we did throw a Comp Cam's Magnum hydraulic flat tappet camshaft in it. It's what they call the 280H grind. It's a 230 degrees at 50 basic camshaft. Now, up top, we have added some of my favorite parts, like this carburetor. You know how much I love that 850 CFM Ultra XP double pumper from Holley. The intake manifold is what I always call the best choice for any street-driven small block Chevy. It is the Edelbrock Performer RPM air gap dual plane intake manifold. These cylinder heads are a Trick Flow Specialties, or TFS. They have a 195cc inlet runner. Now up top, underneath our Mr. Gasket chrome valve cover, we've also added a Comp Cam's roller rocker, just their entry-level rocker on there. It is a 1.6 ratio. So normally a small block Chevy has a 1.5 to 1 ratio on the rocker arm. That's what they came with stock. What the rocker arm ratio does is multiplies the cam lobe lift to give you more lift at the valve. For example, in this case, with a 1.5 rocker, this camshaft has 480 thousandths lift. With this rocker on it at 0 lash with the hydraulic, it makes 512 thousandths. And those rocker arms add just a little speck of duration as well. So we're gonna throw this on the dyno. Last time with Vortec heads, just iron heads on it made 365 horsepower. We're gonna find out if our better heads, intake, and carburetor can bump this thing over 400, and then go to the glorious YN671 Supercharger. Let's go chuck this thing on the dyno right now. I'll remind you again that the short block here is bone stock, nothing special about it, and that's why the first time we ran it naturally aspirated, Amsoil had us using their OE grade oil, which is just sort of a affordable synthetic. But they heard we were putting a blower on it, and they said, we're gonna save you from yourselves. You need to use the Dominator racing oil. It's still a 1030. The deal is the Dominator has a tougher film strength, so that when we've got boost on the thing and it's making a lot of power, it doesn't squish that oil out from the contact area between the bearing and the connecting rod. And so they said, use the Dominator stuff. As you, the audience, demanded an actual funnel. So I'm gonna go there. Against my wishes. I bet you I can spill this stuff anyway. Here we go. So we got our engine on the dyno. We know it's gonna be a lot better than the last episode when we ran the same engine with Vortec heads, low-rise intake manifold, and a 600 CFM carburetor, and a 1 5/8 inch tube header instead of these 1 3/4. So it's gonna be significantly better. We just don't know how much until Uncle Steve fires it up. Officially not 400 horsepower.
Pretty close.
Let's have a look at our baseline peaks. We just made 412.4 pound-feet of torque at 4,200 RPM, and our horsepower peak was 395 horsepower at 5,800 RPM. Now, that's actually pretty good for just a really low buck 350 until you overlay the test that we did on the last episode with the Vortec heads. The red one here, when it had a 600 carburetor, a lower rise intake manifold, Vortec heads, and smaller headers. And then the black line is what we just did with the TFS heads, the air gap intake, the 850 carb, and bigger headers. And you can see we gave up quite a bit below about 3,800 RPM. I think this is not the choice I'd make, but it made a whole lot more power up at the higher RPM, just not what I was hoping for. I was looking for 420 horsepower.
So was I.
Yeah.
I think we all were, but you know, when you start to look at the difference in those changes, it still picked up 30 horsepower.
The thing I think that this TFS head is really going to give us is a lot more performance when we put the blower on.
Yeah, obviously. Now we can use the cylinder head.
And also you can grow more with that if you wanted to do more mods down the road, like higher compression pistons, roller cam,
a
and all
383
that
instead
stuff.
of a 350.
Yeah.
It's still the head that I would buy.
I would buy that too.
So here's the real question though. We made 395 horsepower. Can the 671 make 600 horsepower?
With enough boost.
I don't know if we can get there with the pulleys we've got.
I say yes.
Cast piston, cast crankshaft, all the wrong things.
The cast portion of it's not costing any power.
No, it's not.
It
It's
just makes it a time bomb.
Right. Okay, well, let's go pull the pin on it.
All right. I like that idea.
Remember how I said that Edelbrock air gap is my favorite street intake manifold? That was wrong. The belt-driven intake manifold is my favorite. That's right, the Roots Supercharger. This thing is awesome. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of time. These are called Roots Superchargers because they were invented by the Roots brothers in the 1800s. Basically, it's a design that uses two rotors that spin together as a positive air displacement method. They use these things to stoke furnaces, to evacuate fumes out of mines, all sorts of stuff like that. But since the very early 1900s, they've been used on cars. Therefore, this is the oldest supercharging method used on automobiles. What it's really famous for, though, is 70s street machines, but that heritage goes all the way back to the early 50s and a guy named Barney Navarro, a legendary hot rodder who's recognized as being the first guy to put a Roots supercharger onto a hot rod. He used one that came off of a GMC diesel. So this is called a 671 blower. There are also 371s, 471s, 871s. What that refers to is the designation of GMC two-stroke diesel engine that these were used on, this particular case design and footprint. And the 671 like this means this came off a 6-cylinder with 71 cubic inches per cylinder GMC diesel. So that's kind of the background of where these came from, but what they're really known for is 70s street machine goodness. These things just look so retro and so cool and they make power. Let's just get out of the way all of the things that are terrible about a Roots blower setup. They're heavy. They have a lot of power loss. They make a lot of heat. The adiabatic efficiency on them is terrible. You gotta spend twice as much on carburetors. The linkage is a nightmare to set up. You gotta cut a hole in your hood. You can't see around them. And the best thing of all is that none of that matters because they look killer and they make great power. This particular model is a Wyand 671. Phil Wyand is another one of the legendary hot rodders, and his company's been making these things forever. It's now a division of Holley. They just came out with this case design. They used to have the Wyand logo right on the side, and they looked a little bit newer than this new retro case that they've got. They also have a nostalgia drive that you can get. Unfortunately, they were out of those when we ordered this deal up. You can get them as a complete kit for small block Chevys, big block Chevys, and Hemis. Wyand sells 671 and 871 versions. This is a 6. Up top, we have two Holley 750 CFM Supercharger HP carburetors. These things are calibrated specifically for Roots Supercharger applications. These things are just awesome on the street. The throttle response, the way they fire up, the way they sound, the way they make just fat low-end torque. But my real hope is that this pile of a cast piston small block is gonna make 600 horsepower and live to tell about it. We'll find that out right now as we hook this thing up on that little 350 Chevy.
Oh, the hex bar.
Always.
Cut it 3 inches shorter.
You always see us use this gray RTV in order to seal off the end rails on the intake manifold. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why, because you ever go to the parts store and there's all these different colors of RTV and you have no idea what to do? Well, basically you just need to read the package, but here's what Permatex told me about the new Optimum Gray and Optimum Black. Basically, we're using the gray on all of our old engines except for oil pans where the black is better. The black is designed kind of for newer engines that have thinner materials and that have fewer bolts like on an oil pan. It can be used in a thinner application and it's got more flexibility, which you can tell because it says high flex. So that's kind of for newer engines or for oil pans on older engines, whereas when we're trying to fill a big gap, we're going with the gray stuff.
Bam.
Boom. See?
Wow.
I told you.
A transformation.
Right? How can
Wow.
you critique this? You guys are starting to like
I didn't critique
harsh my blower vibe.
I've always envied the guys who could have a blower. I was never that guy.
My mood has immediately improved after the lackluster performance of this engine earlier today. Here's something you should know about all the Holley Supercharger carburetors, which is that they have ports on them for boost referenced power valves. Here's what that means. That's a Holley power valve. It opens when it sees a reduction in manifold vacuum. This is a 4.5 power valve, so it opens when manifold vacuum is less than 4.5 inches of mercury. And the deal is that in some situations with a supercharger like this, you could have vacuum underneath the carburetors and you could have zero vacuum or maybe even just a hair of boost under the blower. And so the engine is wanting more fuel, but because there's vacuum under the carburetors, the power valve hasn't opened, and so you're not getting that extra fuel. So what you do is you run a hose from this port on the back of the manifold up to these ports that go to the power valves in all 4 metering blocks in these carburetors, and then you don't have to worry about that happening. So that's your deal on boost referenced power valves. What we're about to do is put a bunch of boost on a cast piston engine, which is a super bad idea. We've talked about it amongst ourselves. I would never do this in an actual car on something that you cared about. It's gonna fall apart.
And we're doing this for, oh yeah, demonstration purposes.
There you go, demo purposes only. Fire up that garbage.
It didn't make any power.
That's all I was watching was the boost.
How much?
Made about 8.
Yeah, 7.9 at peak. It took a while to get there.
And it made a whopping.
It made no power.
Really?
Nothing.
What? That's a turd.
So, you know what we need to do now?
Pulley?
Yeah, we need timing.
No, we don't need pulley. We need timing.
Ooh, yeah.
Because we've already got 8 pounds of boost in it.
It only made 447 pound-feet and 467 horsepower, which is really lame. So the timing in this distributor is locked out. It has no curve. It's always at 25 degrees before top dead center. It's a little soft there. So we're gonna go ahead and probably what? Put 2 degrees in it? Put 3? 5?
Steve's actually right. I think we'll probably go 3 the first whack, see what it gives us in return.
What'd you put in?
28.
Really?
I think he put 30 in and he's lying to us.
No, I put 30 in at first, and then I backed it down 2 degrees.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that on my own without telling you guys.
You don't want to blow it up?
No.
Well, that was disappointing. I thought the timing should have made a much bigger
Didn't do
difference
much?
than that.
Once
How
again,
much was it?
so that last pull was 451 pound-feet and 472 horsepower.
What? Yeah.
The timing didn't make that big of a
You know, and
difference.
it normally always does. They like timing.
So what do you think we're running into there?
Let's put another couple degrees of timing in it just to see If we're kind of in that
if you
no
ever
man's
hit a
land and
trend.
now it starts to pick up, we'll
What
try
number
to
are you looking for?
go to 30.
Okay.
We'll see. If it doesn't respond at 30, then it's just probably not going to respond much.
Yeah.
That's very surprising to me. I would have
It is. That's
really thought that it would have picked up significantly from 25 to 28 degrees.
like that.
That helped quite a bit.
Okay, 480 pound-feet, 510 horsepower, creeping up. Still not what we'd like to see. Yeah, the blue line's where we started, black line's where we are now, and that's just with changing ignition timing.
I think it's telling us what it needs to tell us right now, so I think we should look at another pulley combination, see if we can make the thing get up to 11.
540 horsepower would be pretty respectable.
Cast piston.
The question you have to ask yourself, do you feel lucky?
I gots to know. Let's get the pulleys. I think the short version at this point is we're disappointed. I mean, the engine made less than I expected it to, naturally aspirated by like 30 numbers, and I think it's the same for these guys. And hence, it's not doing as well under boost as we would like it to. If it had made 420 horsepower to begin with, we would probably be making the 550, which is kind of a realistic number. Right now, we're looking at just above 500 horsepower, which, while it sounds lame when you look at this, when you realize that it's a 33% power gain over naturally aspirated, and it's a 350 cubic inch engine with a bone stock short block and a hydraulic flat tappet cam that's pretty tiny, you start to justify why it's not quite what we hoped it would be. Okay, making dangerous moves. We just flipped the pulleys so that the small one's on the top, big one's on the bottom. Now we're spinning the blower 11% faster than the engine speed, whereas before it was 10% slower. So this is gonna make more boost and either a big explosion that will put a smile on my face or a little bit more power, which might put a grimace on my face. We'll see. Boom! 528 pound-feet of torque at 4,700, peak boost, 12.8, and we made 549.3 horsepower, which I feel great about rounding up to 550, and that happened at 5,900 RPM. So that took a lot more boost to get to where we needed to be, but that's closer to reality.
Not that much more though, really. You know,
Not that
going
much
back
more?
and looking at some other data and kind of where they were with the 383s and kind of looking at some other stuff, I don't think we're that far off.
Really?
I think you ran some numbers though, as far as percentages and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a 40% power gain over naturally aspirated. In fact, let's look at this curve versus a naturally aspirated curve. Look at that. I mean, that tells the story right there. That is massive power increase, absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, 110 pound-feet of torque, I think you'd feel that.
Yeah, but look at it at the punch down there at the torque converter hit. I mean,
Oh, I know.
that is.
Oh, this thing is tire smoke for days. So let's ask, how come I'm so negative on it? How come I just had unrealistic expectations of this thing, both NA and boosted?
Yes.
Really? Really? I was just sniffing glue the whole time? Is that
No,
the
actually,
deal?
I think we all were really close on the NA stuff. You know, that's really an interesting point because we were all so afraid, and I wonder now, how afraid should we have been? You know, how much boost would this thing take before it breaks?
Maybe we'll find out next time on Engine Masters. Well, what's your spin?
My spin
Yeah.
looks great. Not quite as much power as I wanted.
Oh man,
But
I thought
still
you were
pretty good.
had a more positive spin than this. I was looking for some uplifting stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to cheer you up?
Kind of, because you know what it comes down to?
What?
It's like Roots Blower, I still love you. This guy down here though, not so much.
I really liked overdriving the pulleys. I was kind of disappointed underdriving and not using more potential that the blower had to give, and it's the gift that keeps on giving.
I have some news for you and for the audience.
Really?
blower gasket.
Blower gasket? Oh, no.
A chunk of blower gasket blew out of the back of the thing between the manifold and the blower, and we didn't even notice, so we had that much of a boost leak. It still made the boost that it made. I mean, the power and the boost are still what they were, but we had to spin the blower harder to get it because of the boost leak, and that's why we had to go to such a radical pulley.
So we could have probably made 15 or 16 PSI and even more power.
Well, yeah, we could have. Either that or we could have scattered the guts of this thing all over the floor. I will maintain my position. The Roots blower is the ultimate street intake manifold. Nothing gives you that crackly throttle response and torque like one of these things.
Can I have it?
No, because once again, I love my blower.
Okay.
But once again, I do not love this short block. It's just not good, and we are going to put a finish to it on the next episode of Engine Masters as we answer the question, how much boost can this thing really take? Tune in for that next time as we're sponsored by AMSOIL, Mr. Gasket, and Earl's Vapor Guard hose on Engine Masters.
You exceed the eutectic point by the Latin prefix hyper, which means greater than. You're at hyper eutectic, which means you have free silicone in the alloy.